Are there good questions or frameworks that help identify that chip on the shoulder, someone who's willing to work extra hours? Those are the folks that in a startup world are going to rise to the top and become executives and execute on the innovation.
For new graduates, I mean, one of the best things I could say for people coming out of universities is to volunteer your time and get involved in multiple things and try to demonstrate your leadership through those things. We really needed to start focusing on getting domain experts who could execute. Because if we don't build anything, right, we just become this shop, this idea shop.
Yeah.
Right. And so we're very much focused on execution now. At the same time, we're looking for individuals who have that grit, who have that determination, who have that chip on their shoulder and have a natural curiosity, who are good at teaching themselves new things.
Yeah.
So that is the core skill set. But then layer on top of that, like we want the core expertise to execute on projects. So we need specific process engineers that are very good at things. We need finance individuals who are very good at things. We need legal that's very good and focused, understands, contracts on large projects and things like this. And so the recruitment process now is we can very much give a specific skill set that we're on the lookout for. And then we leverage recruiting firms. We now have something new here at 8 Rivers, which we hadn't had for a very long time. I think it's only maybe 2 years or a year and a half old, and that's an HR department.
Okay.
And so, we leverage those recruiting firms, and then, obviously HR is running that process, but then the interview process, we try to get a diverse set of skill sets internally, interviewing each person.
Have you had, as a team, organizational conversations about what to solve for, what you're looking for? Like, you have to have these skills. There's actually relatively tried and true tech ways to find out if the person is, going to tick the boxes. But then there's cultural fit. How do you approach that, and making sure that the whole team understands the cultural fit and narrative and aspect that's important?
Yeah, I think on the cultural fit and the personal temperament, that is something that Meg and Coley in HR are really focused on. And that's where their expertise, that's one of their expertises. And it's certainly not mine to be able to test whether a person is a cultural fit. I mean, the best thing I could ask a person about cultural fit is if they're okay with a degree of ambiguity.
And that's a good question.
Yeah, exactly. And the ability to operate in a system that doesn't have an overly burdened process.
I'm always curious how you find out someone's, like, the grit, like you said, that chip on their shoulder. And what, as even with a small team, I think that's one of those things for us that it's hard to identify. And sometimes you feel lucky, but there have to be ways, and I keep searching for it, right? By asking folks like you, like, are there good questions or frameworks that help identify that chip on the shoulder, someone who's willing to work extra hours and not count the cost, so to speak, right? Because those are the folks that in a startup world are going to rise to the top and become executives and execute on the innovation.
Yeah. And I think, again, it goes back to understanding a person's background, how they got to where they got, how hard did they have to fight, how much effort did they have to put in. For new graduates, I mean, one of the best things I could say for people coming out of universities is to volunteer your time and get involved in multiple things.
Right.
And try to demonstrate your leadership through those things.
That's right.
Because,
and your curiosity.
Yeah. Like on a resume, you can see somebody who's going to put in a little bit extra effort based on at least, for those near-term graduates, what they did during their time at university, either undergrad or grad or both. I'm always very attracted to individuals that I've seen like step out and try and start their own thing.
Yeah.
Like that demonstrates a particular set of characteristics and a mindset.
So sometimes people don't want to hire entrepreneurial-minded people because they're afraid they're going to leave, right? They're afraid they're short-term thinking.
Yeah.
They don't dig their heels in.
Yeah, I don't know that that's necessarily the case. I think it really matters. There's a particular personality for those individuals.
Yeah.
And if you can give them the sense of freedom to operate,
that autonomy,
they might that might just stick around for a good bit of time. And I would say we have a number of individuals who have that entrepreneurial mindset who have stuck around for quite some time.
So one of the conversations that we got into in our first interview was around how you see that 8 Rivers is bridging the gap between what we call traditional or fossil fuel energy and molecule-based energy and renewable energy and renewable technology, and in particular, hiring from traditional fossil fuel-based companies. What trends are you seeing right now in skills or skills gap, and how you guys are filling roles with folks that are, I would say, non-traditional for clean energy company?
Given how unique our focus is, that a lot of people from larger traditional industries, be it an EPC, engineering, procurement, construction company, that's like a company that builds large power plants or refineries or desalination or anything like this, to water treatment, to oil and gas companies, they're yearning to take the experience and the expertise that they've developed in that industry and apply it in new and innovative ways. In places where, when they have an idea, even if you take it to even the level of like supply chain management, right? In a large company, you might see 15 different ways to improve the supply chain process, but you can't get it approved and you can't get them to agree. Where when you look at 8 Rivers, you look at, wow, they're doing the type of procurement activities that I know how to do. And in fact, if I could take my expertise and my ideas, I'll be allowed to apply them there. And I can actually see how much more efficient that process is. And then we as a company benefit from that. And then I think the other big benefit is that because we're not a legacy oil and gas or fossil company, a lot of the people in those industries see opportunity for growth while still leveraging their core skill set. Now, as far as gaps are concerned, this has been a topic that I've been speaking about for the past 2 months, actually, and that's centered around petroleum engineers, reservoir engineers, surveyors, permitters. Like, those skill sets are on the decline. There's a significant reduction in petroleum engineer graduates coming out of Texas A&M, which is one of the best schools for petroleum engineering. And this is really concerning because when you think about the energy transition and you think about removing CO2 from the atmosphere or capturing it on the back end of a process, at the end of the day, you need to move that molecule. You need to move those CO2 molecules. And when you look at industries who have the expertise to move molecules, deal with the subsurface, the oil and gas industry has that in spades.
That's right.
Right? And so leveraging that skill set is critical, but what we're hearing now is that technology's ready. So people are stopping the argument about, oh, technology's too early stage. I've heard a resounding technology's ready. We're seeing large investments in these technology companies. The next thing that needs solving is the permitting process for pipelines or Class 6 wells for storage, or even building a project. The permitting process for that is very lengthy. So if we're going to achieve scale quickly, we need a faster permitting process. And I think the government has heard that, and I think that there is real effort being put behind accelerating those things. But then with those two things achieved, as we start to build, we run into a problem that we don't have the skills that we need to achieve the scale and the speed of execution. And so I think that really and that's what I think is so great about your podcast, right? And the fact that you've reached out is because we really need all of the skill sets, all of the tools, solar, wind, carbon capture, coming together.
That's right.
Because we've had decades of deployment of a lot of renewable technology, and that has made a huge dent in the overall energy mix. But we need more because the CO2 continues to increase.
That's right. Despite the fact that we've had record deployment.
That's right. And so bringing all these skill sets together and developing projects where there's, I see in the future projects that are leveraging the intermittency of solar to maximize solar's value in an industrial process that captures the CO2 as well as leveraging wind and bringing all those resources together to produce, sustainable fuels, sustainable materials, zero emissions electricity. It's really interesting how you can, when you have a large sink for power, a large demand for power in a large industrial facility, how you can shift that solar power in and out of that project as opposed to taking power from a more emissions intensive grid.
Right.
And so there's interesting efficiencies that can be realized by bringing these things together.